practice not falling by doing that yoga, but I do some of that.
Hey, any practice you can do of getting more, I need to do more practice being limber.
Yeah.
So that these muscles back here are used to
Sure.
this motion and don't break down. Okay. We are live, friends, on
Where's Lauren? He's almost here.
Lauren, I don't think is going to be here this day.
I was gonna be early and then some people are cutting trees in
Are you
my
okay?
yard.
Yeah.
The tree cutters told me why they can't do all they wanna do, so it's,
The tree cutters? Well, we always listen to the tree cutters.
well, they're trying to take the stump of a tree out and they need an excavator. And they looked at me and said, "Don't look at me, give me some names and I'll go home."
Absolutely. So we are here. We are studying Job here in Topeka, Kansas, for anyone joining us on YouTube now or after the fact. I believe, are picking up on Job chapter 13. Normally Lauren reminds me, which
1356.
and Chris is here too. It's like a Saturday.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
1356.
Yeah, he's good. You can let him in. Sometimes if they don't recognize him, they look at each other and they're like, should we? Should we not?
That's a
It's
good
okay
thing.
in this case. Oh, I'm with you.
Yep.
We just had a security committee meeting last night. I'm with you. Times like this time of year, I live in this building. I should set up a cot in the library.
Originally,
set it
I
up
was
in my
against
office, but it's
a
full.
little fob thing, but now that I've been using it, it is easy.
Yeah, I told everyone I was like, God, once we start to, you're gonna wish we'd had it years ago.
Yeah, right.
It's
I was
the
too
easiest
lazy.
thing.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
tap it and it just opens. You
You
open.
don't have
It's
to
great.
hunt for a key.
Right.
You don't need to put a key in anything. You don't need to turn anything. Just take your keys out of your pocket and mash them against the thing on the wall. And,
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be absolutely flat, and just enough so it can pick.
right,
up
just
everything.
very close to it. Right.
Yeah.
Well, we are here studying Job. We are in chapter 13, which we dropped off because we had so much conversation about chapter 12, which was a first chapter of Job's response to the third friend. So the third friend had done his. Remember, we had talked about how Job. We'll do our recap and then we'll do blessing and then we'll read. That's probably the best way. So we were covering Job chapter 12. The third friend, remember, the first friend kind of had each friend of Job who gives him a response to his questioning theodicy represents a type of theodicy in a way, a type of ideology around divine justice. The first friend says, "Oh, you better just hope your way through it. Just get through it. God will come through for you. Just don't say anything blasphemous and keep your way through it, friend." And he was very supportive in that way. But it rang to us as kind of hollow because it was supportive in a way that didn't recognize the position that Job found himself in, which is deeply afflicted in pain and suffering the loss of everything, basically everything he holds dear. The second friend was more cautionary, was more like Tochacha, like, hey, sounds like you're veering towards blasphemy, friend. You better not. Just be like, no, like, let's steer away from that. Because avoiding blasphemy being the biggest thing, I suppose. And Job said, I'm not doing that. And so that person didn't really speak to Job either. The third person was much more like, well, the devil's advocate in a way, the advocate of Hasatan in a way. The third friend was much more accusatory. And his speech was much more, you are blaspheming God, and the way you're doing this is inappropriate, and what you're saying goes against the understanding of God, as it rejects God because it's rejecting God's perfect justice. One second. That has been responded to by Job by saying, essentially making a very, I would almost argue, a point of pluralism, which I like to bring up as often as I can in these classes. in which he's saying the kind of zealotry you represent is the downfall of everyone. We can't have perfect zealotry because perfect zealotry yields nothing else perfect. I'm paraphrasing exceptionally, but that's that. And we then will, as we are also, this is wisdom literature after all, we're getting some of that here, both in chapter 12 and here in Job's continued response in chapter 13. Yes,
A
Chris.
couple things in Judaism, the Satan is represented as the accuser.
No Satan, but Hasatan. Yes.
And also zealotry is a form of arrogance and pride.
Yes, I think, and exactly, I think that. In fact, I think we're going to hear some of that in the first couple lines here. A rejection of that, because it also leads people to put themselves above others. If they are perfect, their belief is perfect, their ideology perfect, regardless of what belief and ideology it is. Everyone else has failed to measure up and therefore is contemptible. And that is dangerous. That is the opposite of pluralism. Zealotry is the opposite of pluralism. If one believes only one way can be perfect and everything else is not just imperfect, but sinful, essentially, there can be no agree to disagree. You can't agree to disagree with something that destroys you. And that's basically, look, I'll say this. I say that we talk about the Haredim a lot, and this is an interesting setting to do it, but I was just in Israel and we had an older Haredi rabbi and I had a very interesting debate about who's really the traitor to the Jewish people. Him, the not serving, I don't want to use anything, I don't want to say anything, not sharing the burden appropriately in the land of Israel, taking a lot from the government without doing anything for the state, and smearing other parts of the Jewish world, including the largest segment of American Jewry, Reform Judaism, and therefore dividing the Jewish people, which is not a good thing to do. He says back to me, well, you promote intermarriage and you promote illiteracy and you promote, the weakening, the turning Judaism into Hevel, essentially. Right? And so this was our debate. And so we didn't come to anything that was positive in the end, other than we didn't kill each other, which I guess is
That forward.
in Jerusalem. Nobody hit anybody, which is he didn't spit on me, which some of his students spit on some of us, and got arrested. They got arrested for that. You're not allowed to spit on people. They like to spit. I don't know why. They're very into spitting. But some of these people are. But the point is zealotry. I needed to soften too, is what I'm saying. Because going too far, Judaism understands well that building fences around rules helps people prevent transgressing them. One of the fences we need most is around our use of language. Because when I went in with traitor, there's really nothing, you can't go further than traitor. You can't. What happens to traitors? Everywhere. One thing. You all know instantly what the punishment for that is. So there's this tension. Do we fight fire with fire? And we're going to see this here in Job. Should Job fight fire with fire? Accusatorily, denouncing, blasphemy, if you want to use that word, because we know he has been treated unfairly, even if he doesn't really know it. Anyway, now we're going to do our blessing. Now that we're 10 minutes in, and then we'll read into chapter 13. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. If you say Amen, you get full credit. And we are moving into perfectly good. As I said, full credit. We're moving now into chapter 13. And he once again is reminding the zealot that he is not misinformed. He is not he knows God, he knows of God. He's not saying there isn't the God. He's not doing what this person's accusing him of. He says, "My eye has seen all of this, and my ear has heard and understood it." Right? I understand God can do anything, knows everything, unlimited power, great, all that stuff. I'm not challenging any of that. I never did, he's saying. What you know, I also know. I am not less than you. And this is speaking to some of what Chris was talking about. The zealotry of this other guy has led him to put himself here and Job down here. As if almost Job's suffering in reaction to it made him less. That doesn't sound religious to me. That sounds no religious system that was meant to bring moral feeling, compassion at the very least to humanity would react in such a way. So I know he must be wrong and Job must be right, at least about this. That's just my instinct. You can disagree with me. Indeed, he says, and I like in the Steinsaltz says but, right? Ulam ani lo shaddai, right? So it's a different thing. This ulam here, it's like maybe it's kind of like their ulai, I think. Perhaps I would speak to God, insist on, and I insist on arguing with God. And it's interesting here. I've told you guys many times, I don't love JPS's translation is good for many things, especially the 5 books of Moses. Poetry, I don't always love its translations. This is fine. I actually prefer, but I would prefer to speak to God and to argue with God I seek. So it could be the way that's phrased. It could be instead of I insist on arguing with God, it could be I insist on what I seek is to argue with God. It could also be I in a doubling way, which we think of sometimes interpretively in Hebrew, that what I desire is to argue with the God I seek. Right? And that not implying more than one God, just implying that there's an active searching on Job's part to be in relationship with God. Not just a passive acceptance of the religiosity of the world around him, right? That he's an active participant in this relationship, a personal relationship with God. I think that's important for wisdom literature to talk about a personal relationship with God, because there are lots of parts of Torah. Torah implies at once a communal and therefore non-personal relationship with God. You don't have a personal relationship with Shawnee County, right? You might feel like you have a personal relationship, depending on how your trash gets picked up or whatever. But you don't really have a personal relationship with Shawnee County. The county has a relationship to the community. There's a step of distance there. I think my metaphor is going to hold. We'll see.
That's why you say the Shema every morning.
Well, we do say the Shema every morning and every evening. When we say the Shema, that is, we say it personally, but it's also communal. And that leads into my point, which is in Judaism, it's not just that, it's both. It's not just there is a personal relationship between my creator and I, or there is a communal relationship and covenant, which there is, between people and God, or for some of us, the Jewish people and God, where there are more responsibilities we have to uphold. In any event, whichever version of that you're looking at, one is communal and one is personal. For Judaism, they're both at the same time. There's no so that's why I'm focusing so much on the difference in the translation here, because I see this as making more evidence there's plenty of evidence I can point to for a communal relationship with God. The people of the 5 books of Moses are, mostly a testament to the relationship communally between the people and God. then we get into the prophetic books, and here we get much more of an understanding of the personal and how those two things are meant to relate to each other. This is a fun line. Sorry, I don't mean to. Okay, so verse 4, we're going to continue. Ve'ulam, but maybe atem tofle shaker. Tofle shaker. Rof'e, right? Right? Tofle shaker rof'e eli kulchem. So, but you, perhaps you, are inventors of lies. More than that, you are rof'e elil. You are quacks.
Yeah.
Or as Steinsaltz has it in the more literal translation, physicians of folly.
Worthless physicians.
Right, yeah, worthless physicians that don't. This allele, right, is comes from the same as I think it's the same as Elul in the.
Yeah, it sounds like it's.
But we won't. It's a different thing. It comes from Elal. But yeah, it means of not, good for nothing, or worthless. It is used in reference to false gods, shepherds, sorcery, divination, like soothsayers, people like tarot card readers, and doctors. So the rabbis have a very low opinion of doctors. We have a very high opinion of doctors. And of course, I wonder what Rambam has to say about this, because he was a doctor.
Yeah, what did he say?
That's a good question.
We like you, Sam.
No.
That's a huge.
No, we like doctors plenty,
No, I
but
know.
but not so much here. Anyway, he's just saying, right? And of course he's saying, why is he specifically saying they're like Rof'ei Elil? They're like Rof'ei Elil because they came here to talk to him, to provide comfort. But nothing any of them said was comforting. I've told you before, I thought they did bad pastoral care. Well, this is the proof. He says, you come here and you only make things worse. You must be Rofei Elil. You must be physicians of folly or, worthless physicians or quacks. Interesting that JPS went with quacks. That's a very, again, you can see here what I mean when I say it's a very artful translation. That's right, but it also hides something about what it actually said. You know what you get what I'm saying?
Oftentimes, physicians, in my experience, speak clinically and aren't able to empathize and can oftentimes
Bedside manner, you
bedside
mean?
manner. Yeah, I guess they teach it now in medical school.
I never having gone to medical school, I can't speak as to what they do or don't teach there. Personally, I would like to make sure that they are the best body mechanic they can be. I don't really care how nice they are to me. I had this surgeon once. Man, my story time. I had to have my gallbladder out a couple of years ago. I was in California, and I had this terrible. I was having gallbladder attacks for like a year. Didn't even know what it was. Thought it was gas. Just like really dumb of me. Finally went in and they were like, hey, this thing is like, it turns out we think it might be chock full of stones. It might be time to get this out. So the doctor's like, you should go now to the hospital. So I don't even I just go to like the closest. I'm in Los Angeles. I could have called a board member of USC Hillel and I could have gone to Cedar Sinai. I could have gone to a nice hospital. I went to whatever Monterey Park public hospital, like whatever the 2-bit level building, that's where I went. Or technically, I guess for this one, I went to, what's the town just north of there? The big one with the A.
Anaheim?
No, north. It's not big. Sorry, it's not that big. It's in the San Gabriel Valley. It starts with an A. Alhambra. The Alhambra Community Hospital. This one was like 7 stories. Anyway. And so I go there, and the guy comes in. It's this guy, very nice guy. It's a very large Asian community. This guy's also an Asian doctor. My primary care doctor is also Asian. All of my neighbors are. It's a very, like 90% of the community is Asian. Best food you ever had. Anyway, so I get there. The guy goes, "Okay, I'm going to do surgery on you." I'm like, "Cool. Do you know what you're doing? Like, do you know like he just said I'm going to do surgery on you?" Which is like, I was like, "Okay." Like he's like, "Yeah, I'm taking your gallbladder out." And I said, is it going to be like painful or stuff? He's like, yeah, you probably won't be that happy afterwards, but like it's laparoscopic, so you'll be fine after like a day. And I was like, okay, that was it. That was the end of our conversation. He was like, okay, see you in there. And he left. Did a great job. Guy did a bang up job. Not great bedside manner, but he did a bang up job. And I'll tell you, that's the part that's important to me.
Yeah.
Surgeons,
Um,
surgeons are notorious for traditionally being deficient there.
again, I don't really know many. All the Jews I knew in our sphere were lawyers, not doctors. We had no doctors. They were all lawyers and
In
accountants.
truth, in olden times, surgeons were deadly. They had infections, a bunch of stuff. We know a lot more now.
Well, yeah, I wasn't worried about dying of an infection.
Well, if it was 1600, you would.
If I was 1600, I would have suffered with it until I died.
Yeah, probably.
The gallbladder, like they wouldn't have done surgery to take my gallbladder out.
What's a gallbladder?
Right, that's the other thing. They'd be like, your humors are out of balance. Quick, leech him.
Yeah, right.
Oh well. What we didn't know, we didn't know. Anyway, can you believe they were still calling people Rofei Elil back when they didn't own it? Like it feels mean almost. Like today, at least you could be like, oh, like you should know. Then it's like, what did you expect? The leeches? No, sorry. Okay. Okay. So more he speaks to his friends, he says, if you would that you were silent, and that your silence would be wisdom for you. Right? It would be considered wisdom on your part just to be silent. Right? They were silent for the first week. And I said to you then that was the best pastoral care they did. And he's saying that again now. This is my report card. I'm getting an A. They're getting an F, but I'm getting an A. Only theoretically, though. Anyway, okay, 6. So, Shimuna, right? Hear me, please. Hear my arguments now. Listen to my pleading. Will you speak unjustly on God's behalf? Speaking deceitfully. Right? This is an interesting turnaround because they've been accusing him for a couple rounds now of he's speaking, saying God is not doing justice. Now he's turning it around on them and saying, I say this is injustice, and you say God is doing it. Will you falsely speak injustice on behalf of God? And for God, will you speak deceit? Right? Job is saying, according to the commentators, you know that you don't speak the truth. You merely talk in this manner because you think that this is what one is supposed to say. That their theodicy isn't something they've ever thought about. It's recited from a book somewhere. You say it either because it is written in the holy books or because it is your tradition to say it this way. Your justification of God in our dispute is nothing more than hypocritical bias toward God. Right? This goes to that zealotry almost, saying you just assumed that you've said it must come from God and that everything from God must be good. You've left yourself no wiggle room here. And therefore you've left God no wiggle room. And who are you to limit God in that way? Right? And going further, will you favor God? Will you and will you be partial to God? Will you be this zealot? Will you plead God's case? Right? Are you God's attorney? Will it go well when you are examined, when God examines you? Will you fool God as you would a mortal? Right? He's saying, you're saying it because you think you're supposed to. And you think that will make you look good. But God's going to know you said it just because you're supposed to. That you've never thought about it. And that you're actually, in effect, limiting God. And therefore will expose your hypocrisy and insincere flattery. And that's when he says, will you fool God as one fools a man? Of course, the answer is of course not, right? I've told you before, the blessing we say when you see a crowd of people, Judaism is a blessing for everything. Every single thing you could possibly see, from a rainbow to a tree to a crowd of people. When you see it, there's a blessing you should recite. I actually have an app on my phone so I can look up the right blessing to say in each situation. And I can get recommended for you if you. I think it does cost like $2.99. Sorry, I won't recommend it. It's not. I don't get any of that money. Don't worry. It's not like anyway. And the one we say when we see a crowd of people is, "Blessed is God who knows each and every one of their secrets, who knows their minds, essentially, who knows the inner workings of every single individual in that crowd." That God cannot be fooled and isn't interested in your flattery.
That's kind of a frightening thought.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is like we all engage in these human level manipulations because it's the world we live in. Oh, I want to do X, but this other person doesn't want me to. How can I convince them? It's not always, when I say manipulations, I don't always mean it as like duplicity and lying. You can manipulate someone by telling them the truth. That's anyway. The point I'm just saying, manipulation is everywhere and all the time, and you do it, and other people are doing it, and you should try and do it less. Everyone should, but sometimes we fool ourselves. Often we fool ourselves that we are so good, maybe, at manipulating human beings that we could manipulate someone who understands every thought behind our manipulation, which is really silly. It's like if we were playing poker and you were like, I can beat you. I was like, but you're playing with your cards up. And it's like, yeah, I can beat you still. It's like, maybe, but I'd have to be playing really bad, right? And this is even way, now take that, now I'm going to give alachat kama v'kama. How much more so should it be, even like, this is like that scale compared to, like, that would be me beating you like this, but compared to the scale of God, it's like we're both here and God's like way over, so it's like silly, right? He says, no, surely he will rebuke and punish you if you show partiality towards God, right? Why? Why would that be true, by the way? It's certainly, I'm not sure it should be true for them, although they are required under the Noahide rules to establish courts of justice, so maybe it still applies. Why wouldn't God want you to be partial towards God, to always just say whatever God does is good is good?
I think God wants us to be honest.
Yeah. God would rather we be honest, right? That we not tell lies than that we, right? That we, right? Because, and we know this from every example where Abraham or Moses confronted God and said, hey, you sure you want to do this? You sure you want to kill all those people in Sodom and Gomorrah? That time he does. God still does it, even though there's an argument. And then Moses says, hey, God, you sure you want to kill all the Israelites after saving them from Egypt? And that time, Moses talks God down, and God doesn't do it.
The problem is not being deceitful towards others, but being deceitful towards ourselves.
Well, both are a problem, I would say, but being deceitful towards others often leads us to being deceitful towards ourselves, I would actually say. Because once we convince ourselves that we're good at this, whatever you want to call it, manipulation, once we convince ourselves we're good at it, we do it to ourselves.
We have met the enemy.
We justify. We go back and say, this is why everything I did was always for good.
Well, I personally feel it stems from we've met the enemy, and it is us. It starts right here with us. That leads to distortion towards others. And
I'm not sure I go as far as calling ourselves enemies. I think we are ourselves. And I don't like to, we're not bifurcated in that way. We're not divided in that way. We are one, we have one soul undivided. And so it's less we are an enemy of ourselves, but in Judaism, what we say, here's perhaps this will work. In Judaism, we say the rabbis in the Talmud speak of every human being having a yetzer hatov and a yetzer hara,
Yes.
a good inclination and an evil inclination that wage war within themselves. And the more you feed, we say mitzvah goreret mitzvah, the agara goreret avera, which means doing a mitzvah leads to doing more mitzvot, and doing sins leads to doing more sins. And so what that, in other words, if you feed one, it grows and the other diminishes. Now, neither can ever totally die. You can't snuff out you can't go being a total mobster person, whatever, and snuff out your Yetzer HaTov, though you can make its ember real dim, if we're doing a fire metaphor here. And then on the other side, you can be totally like really great, and you can make your Yetzer HaTov really fiery and your Yetzer Hara really dim, but you can't ever put it out. Both and both. So we're meant to be trying to fight the evil inclination and to support the good inclination throughout our lives. The more good you do, the more good it leads to, and the easier it is to do good the next time, the more sins you do, and so on and so forth. In any event. So yes, we know, we believe that God wouldn't want you to show this kind of favor or partiality even to God, because first of all, it would mean you didn't use, God gave you two things ultimately more important than anything else: your reason and your free will. And if you act like this, you're not using either. You're now an angel. You weren't put here to be an angel. Right? The angels can't disagree with God. They're just servants. They obey God's will, meaning they don't have one of their own. And they probably have some reason separately from animals, but it means nothing since they don't have free will. Here, we're shutting off our reason by saying, nope, whatever, it happened, must be good. Whatever happened, must be, like, they're like, you're shutting off your reason and your free will. You're doing, you're anything that involves a human being rejecting the purpose that God put us on this earth for, God's never going to be happy about. So this is Job's point, essentially.
And what was the purpose we were put here on this earth for?
To be good while having reason and free will. To choose good. To see if God could create, if something that had intelligence, that had reason, that could choose, learn, grow, whether it could still choose to be good out of all the things we could be. So far we haven't, so we're still working on it. I believe God's hope, again, I've said before, the vocation of the Jewish people is to be a light unto the nations, to show the peoples a way in which to live in accordance with God's teachings, so that we will all live, quote unquote, good lives, and therefore all live in happiness and justice and peace. And at that point, we might get closer. But we're still obviously not there. So we continue. It's a long process.
We were reading a book in another group called Notes on Being a Man. Repeat: provide, procreate, and protect.
What was the first one?
Provide, protect, and procreate.
Fair enough.
Judaism strongly promotes procreation, certainly too, I would think.
I guess it does. I think that Judaism would say those things you mentioned are like the very basic building block. We want human beings to get higher than that.
Yeah.
We want human beings to get beyond barely providing for themselves, protecting themselves from each other. We would like humanity to evolve beyond that, quite frankly. And the only way we believe it can be done is by binding oneself to a code and adhering to it. That's the Jewish The Jewish mission is to teach people how to do that. Anyway, we're not doing a great job, I guess, because we're still working on it. We're doing a lot better than we did a couple thousand years ago. So.
Yeah, we don't eat each other anymore.
That's true. We're doing good.
Some would suggest not so much. We've killed more people in the 20th century than.
Well, there are a lot more people in the 20th century than any other time.
I think percentage wise, though, you could argue. I'm not sure.
Well, we're not in the 20th century anymore. Also, we're well into the 21st now. Time to start thinking about a new frame of reference. I think.
You said binding ourselves to what?
To a code, to a moral framework, a moral and legal framework, perhaps, that encourages justice. Again, 2,000 years ago, you would look around the world and say nowhere did it. Now, I'd say there's a lot of places that are trying to do it. So we are making progress. Unfortunately, there's still lots of the world that isn't, and we're not willing to think about that. But we'll get there, I think. Anyway. So in verse 11, right? And again, you're gonna get it says Yochiach etchem. God will tochacha, right? God will rebuke you. And in verse 11, God's threat will terrify you, and fear will seize you. Your briefs are empty platitudes, your slogans, essentially. And actually, it says here, Zichronechem Mishle Efer, which means are like Mishle means like is like a proverb. Mishle is Proverbs, so it's like a statement of ash. Almost. Efer is ash. Is ash. So empty platitudes is another way of saying that, I guess. And it says your responses are like bodies of clay or unsubstantial. They look like bodies, but they're not, right? They have no substance to them. Right? You're not even human, essentially, he said. You've given up what it is to even be human. He's metaphorical, obviously, but Then he says, keep quiet. I will have my say. Come what may upon me. Right? Whatever will happen to me is going to happen. Right? How long? I will take my flesh in my teeth. Right? Why should I bite my skin in order to refrain from talking? I will take my life in my hands. Right. So I'll say what I want to say, even if it goes too far at this point. He says, though God kills me, I will yearn for God. I don't like this translation at all. But I will still argue my ways. There is no rebellion in my words. I will lay out my claims before God in the hope that God will accept them. In this too is my salvation. In God is my salvation. I, not you, will merit salvation, as the hypocrite will not come before him. Therefore, God will not accept you. Right?
So who isn't a hypocrite among us?
Well, it's also interesting here because hypocrite, the impious one.
Mine says godless,
Right. I would say we don't all have to be hypocrites. I don't think it's natural that everybody is hypocritical about it. Like again, like if you're a hypocrite because you're like, I don't like this person, but I don't like Elon Musk, but I bought a Tesla. That's not the kind of hypocrisy I think he's talking about. I think that's a very superficial hypocrisy. I think this is the kind of hypocrisy that's like, I profess to believe in God, but I really don't. That's what he means. That's why it's also impious or not believing. Here is what it means really is I am having this argument because I really believe. You reject any argument because you don't really. You're just about the platitudes. You're just about, oh, say Bezrat Hashem, in the aid of God, it'll come right. Where's the theology there? It's so thin, it basically doesn't exist. That's what Job's saying in this chapter. He's saying your theology is so thin, you might as well not even exist. You didn't invest. This is the part that gets into wisdom literature, because wisdom is about the investigation of the human condition in Judaism. And so he's like, you don't even investigate the world you live in. You don't have any thoughts about God. You're just saying the same useless stuff that we would say to third graders in school.
I'm thinking Christian churches and the Nicene Creed and how many people actually believe in what they're saying.
I have no idea. I don't actually know any. I mean, I think I had to learn what that was at one point, but I couldn't say that I remember it anymore. I think in comparative religions, we had to do an intensive. We had to do comparative religions, and we had to do an intensive in Christianity, and an intensive, which was like a week of like full day classes, and an intensive in Islam. But that was years ago. I don't really remember.
Of course, back to the New Testament again, that was Christ's attack on the Pharisees, calling them empty tombs, being hypocrites.
Well, yes, if you read these books, you want to, and I mean, I don't mean to be offensive, but when you say that, I must come back with, if I read all of these books, the Tanakh, the Jewish Bible, and I wanted to write something that superseded on the Jews, I might take all of the best arguments they make within their own books against people and turn it on them.
You could level the charge.
So I might say you are all the people, right? Because that would be the best way to do it.
Well, you could level the charge of zealotry against him for suggesting that too.
Well, I don't know enough about the story of Jesus or anything he said to accuse anyone of anything.
Well, it goes in that area. People, many Christians don't want. C.S. Lewis said Christ was either the Son of God or a madman. So that's suggesting that.
Can't there be another option? Can't there be more than two options?
No, I can't really, because he claims.
Fine. Then I'll just take as it is that God calls all people his children. Then I'll take the first one, but in the sense that all people are God's children. We are all children of God. That's why we all call God. You'll notice that Jews have a very famous prayer that we sing. Barbara Streisand has a recording you can listen to, actually. Avinu Malkeinu, which we sing on the High Holy Days, which means King is the second one. What's the first one? Avinu, our Father. We call God, all of us call God our Father. How can it be that only one person is the Son of God? I would say we all are. But again, we're not here for a theological debate beyond the confines of Job. In this book, nobody's Jewish. None of these characters are Jewish. They're just random folks from somewhere else. In any event, right. So he's saying he's the real believer because he's the one who's really being serious about thinking about God. Not the people who are unserious, superficial word sayers. Those sloganeering people. Those people, he says, they're hypocrites. They don't really believe. And so he says, listen closely to my words. Give ear to my discourse. See now, I have prepared a case. I know that I will win it. For who is it that would challenge me? I should then keep silent and expire. But two things do not do to me. Right? So that I need not hide from God. Right? So Job is now addressing God directly. He's not talking to his friends here. He's saying, but two things do not do to me, God, so that I need not hide from you. Right? I'll reveal everything in my heart as long as you don't do the following two things. Job says, remove your hand from me that strikes me with these blows, and let not your terror frighten me, right? Do not make it so that I'm too in dread to say what I came to say. which he did. Job, in an earlier response to a friend, expressed hesitancy to approach God for fear that that would happen, that he would summon all of this to get there, only to be not be able to even speak, and then would therefore be judged. You know, if you don't present a case, usually you lose. So so that's Job's deal. Says, just let me not be suffering. Remember, he's still covered in boils from head to toe and like in active pain and stuff every moment. So he's like, excuse me, take that away from me so that I can like move around, and don't put the dread over me so that I can't speak. And then, right, and then he says, then summon me and I will respond, or I will speak and you reply to me. In other words, like the way, right, we've seen in characters in Torah before who speak to, they speak to God and God answers them in whatever manner that comes. Right? And so what is his questions for God? He says, how many are my iniquities and sins? Advise me of my transgression and sin. Inform me of the nature of them, in other words. How many and of what severity? Right? In this country, we've already done this. We put this matter of justice into our code of law. Right? We have due process in America. You have to be you have to be charged before a judge before you can be brought to trial. You have to be told what the nature of the charges against you are. We took all that from, whenever someone says Judeo-Christian basis of our laws and this kind of stuff, they're not lying to you. It's literally that, and it's this. It's Jews and Christian Jewish and Christian morality in some blend applied to our legal system. By the way, it's a great thing. It's the only good thing. It's the best thing the Western world ever came up with. It's the only true justice in the world also.
Speaking of transgression, we brought up the word pride, and I found it's pretty difficult to illuminate people oftentimes about their pride. They're blind to it. So how does God get through to them and their transgression?
I don't know. This isn't about people who aren't seeking. This is not about people who aren't seeking. Job's already made his point about that.
Okay.
And to be fair, most of them, Job's not even talking about. Job's not talking about anybody who's like just closing themselves off because they're sinful.
Speaking myself, not.
That's fine. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's not relevant. He's not talking to that problem in particular.
Which
here.
Make me know my transgression.
Right. He's saying, advise me of my what are the nature of what I've done. Like what of all of my problems. Charge me.
Sam's a psycho.
He's like, I've been adjudicated guilty and punished before I was ever charged. Imagine in this country, if I came to your house in the middle of the night, there are many countries in the world where it still happens and used to happen. But in this country, imagine I came to your house, you're a citizen, in the middle of the night, and I took you out of there, and I brought you to jail, and I threw you in there for 3 years, and I beat the hell out of you and stuff. I don't know. And you were like, what did I do? Like, I never even had the first part. Like, we never even had the charging and the trial and the attorney and that's his point. He's like, I want to build a charge. I want to know what I did that deserved this harsh punishment.
I don't know. In Christian,
Yeah.
pride is the number one sin, the worst violation. I don't know what Judaism did, but
Pride. I think blasphemy is probably the worst sin in Judaism.
Well, they're closely related, in my opinion.
I mean, they could be related, but that would be a correlation not proving causation.
Right.
That wouldn't be because you had whatever we're calling sinning of pride. You did like that. That I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's a there. We'd have to investigate that, but I don't know. Okay. Let's get to the end of this speech. So he says, again, Job is still here addressing God in his last speech here, and this is important. He says, why do you hide your face and treat me like an enemy?
Nobody can live and see the face of God.
Well, there's that, and but we also have this idea of hester panim, which is literally hiding the face, that God does in certain moments when God is upset. and wishes to not show favor. It's God choosing to withdraw, essentially. So that's what he's like, why have you chosen to withdraw from me? You can read that as, and treat me like an enemy, like I'm some, right? Will you harass a driven leaf? Will you pursue dried up straw? Right? A driven leaf. It already fell off the tree. Why is it like is like that you decree for me bitter things and make me answer for the iniquities of my youth? And this is kind of a big accusation because he's by iniquities of his youth, he means sins that he already atoned for, and therefore they shouldn't be, he made amends. Or those or sins he did before he became of age. Remember, until you become a bar mitzvah, your sins are on your parent, not on you. So like that's what he's like, that's what he's referring to.
How old do you have? How old are you when you have a bar mitzvah?
13.
13.
Or 40.
Or
Well,
Well,
89.
sorry, no, but the thing, have a bar mitzvah and become a bar mitzvah are two different questions.
Oh, okay.
Have a bar mitzvah usually at 13, but for many different reasons can be at a different age. Become bar mitzvah is always 13. You converted 80, guess what? You became bar mitzvah the second you stepped out of the mikvah. Or bat mitzvah, same difference for us. After 13, you're responsible. So you are a son or daughter of the commandments. You're responsible for them.
Now,
Um,
in this section, he's asking God about this.
Yes, he's speaking to God, yeah.
Right, he shifted a little bit.
and he's more accusing God here. He says that you put my feet in the stocks and watch all my ways, hemming in my footsteps. One wastes away like a rotten thing, like a garment eaten by moths.
That's a poetic way of saying aging.
That's an interesting, yes, that's a good point. It is a poetic way of
I mean, all people die.
yes, and it is, the commentators are adding that it is meant about all men in general, or humanity in general. It doesn't mean this isn't just because he's suffering from his afflictions and stuff. He means that in general. Right? And this is kind of another wisdom literature piece where it's just like, understand. It says literally, it says, one as he, man in general, decays like carrion and wastes away like a garment eaten by a moth, full of holes, ruined and rendered useless. Fun. Right? And this is kind of, again, the human condition, right? Saying God set this in, like, God could make it so that your joints work perfectly until the day you died, I guess. But that's not the natural process that God created that's set in motion. There's no reason why your cells can't divide perfectly, but sometimes they don't.
Cancer.
So I'm just like, it's this is the same, it's that category of complaint. It's that category of, you set up a world which has already many pitfalls, many things we can't account for, right? Back then, they wouldn't know cancer from something; someone would just die. It was just different. So anyway, it's referring there to the human condition.
This guy's really searching. I mean, he's really trying to figure out what
He's going through it,
did
yeah.
I do. I mean, he's right there at the core of,
And in doing so is getting to the heart of what it means to be human, and therefore giving us wisdom, and therefore it being worthwhile. His suffering is not for nothing. His suffering yields wisdom for us. So, and we're getting that. We were starting to get it. Now we get chapter 14, which is this is wisdom here. This is him, through his searching, he's still talking about life, essentially, which you see in Kohelet also, which we read, where he just stops and he says, you know what? Here's what life is about. And so here, Job in chapter 14 is saying, it says, Adam Yelud Isha Ketzar Yamim Ushva Rogez. Right? So humanity, born of woman, Yelud Isha, is short-lived and sated with trouble. Right? Which we get all the time in wisdom literature. This is the nature of the top level of our complaint. Our lifespans are short, and suffering is great. And for some people, it feels like suffering fills their days. Blossoms like a flower and withers, right? Life does, a person does. Vanishes like a shadow and does not endure, right? Here we get shadow as the word. We use hevel a lot, vapor, in Kohelet, but shadow also kind of takes, right? Because shadow is a shape and size constantly changing. It could be there, it could be gone, depending on, right? It can't be grasped.
So we're born, we flourish, we die.
Yeah.
And then if you accept that, like Kohelet says, and enjoy, that's simply part of the process, and you're part of the process. If you
Right.
say, oh no, I'm
Yes.
no, and then you're suffering.
Yes, exactly. And this is where you see the necessary putting together Job and Kohelet.
No, it's just
Because Kohelet has an answer, essentially, for part of what Job is talking about here. And Kohelet says, I know how you can avoid the feeling that comes along with suffering through understanding this reality. And the way to do it is just to do good things and to enjoy life as it's been presented to you. And if you can do that and not worry too much about the past or the future, and not worry too much about what you have or don't have, and not worry too much about what other people are doing or not doing, then you'll be happy. And you'll live the life you're supposed to live. If you make everybody else's concern your concern, and if you try and build a legacy that will outshine the pyramids, and if you try and say, I will pass on billions of dollars to my children, he's like, all that is nonsense. You're not going to, first of all, you're going to fail. Second of all, eventually, he says you're going to fail. Even if you succeed one time, you'll fail eventually. But and eventually, no one will remember you. But to him, this is good because it's freeing. It frees you from the expectation that you should be
in Kohelet, there's all those time to die, a time to live, a time to kill, and to me, it fits because you don't know what time it is, you just know what is, and you accept that.
Yeah.
If you can't change it, just accept part of the flow of existence. Now the question is, why did God set this up? And of course, there's a latter part of this in which he says, why did you do this?
Yeah. We'll still get to that, but this is we're getting this. We're almost doing this part detached from the story of him and his friends. We can bring that in as needed, but this isn't really about that, right? This is really about that first part you were talking about. This is really much more about how one lives in the world and how one can place themselves in the world. And the wisdom literature is meant to help you do that, to help you root yourself in the basics, I would call it, to help you get yourself to a point where you're like, I am going to be doing what God wants of me, and it will make me happy. If you can do that basically, you'll have a good life. Wisdom literature wants you to do that because it understands that's the only way you can. You won't have a good life doing the things that are pursuit of vapor. You can only have it by doing good, which the Torah means doing mitzvot and good deeds, but that's not just good deeds, it's mitzvot. And by enjoying the world that God created for you to be in and enjoy. Right? And so furthermore, he says, speaking, it's to God here. Is it not enough for you to reflect upon and watch over all the great creatures and plants in the world? Yet even on this, like a man, you opened your eyes and you would bring me, a lowly mortal, to judgment with you. I don't like their. Again, will you go to law with me? What does that mean? Come on, JPS. Sorry. Um, you would bring me, a lowly mortal, to judgment with you, right? This is like there's a recognition there of the greatness of God and of he's like, look, you shouldn't have to make time for me. I'm one guy. You're focused on everybody all at once, and I'm one person. In this judgment, he means here, who can generate the pure from the impure? And here it says lo echad, no one. But again, I think the JPS translation is bad. I think it should be a question, and it should be, isn't it the one? Isn't it God? Only God can justify man, even if he is impure and wicked, when God comes to judge a human being. Yet why should God punish such a puny creature? Their days, human beings' days, are numbered, are determined. But numbered is good too. You know the number of months. You have set them limits that they cannot pass. Remember from Genesis, we learned that after the time of the Nephilim, the giants and demigods, after Adam and all that, God said no person can live past 120. And so said that'll be the limit that no person will live past, and then people don't live past that. So that's by the way we say when someone has a birthday, Jews say Ad Mea V'Esrim, which means literally until 120, which means you should live to 120, which is the maximum you get. We don't think it would be bad to say you should live more than God said was allowed. So you can live exactly as long as God said was the maximum. We feel that's a very nice thing to say. Right. That's what it means. You have set them limits that they cannot pass. Verse 6, turn away from them that they may be at ease until like a hireling they finish out their day. There is hope for a tree. If it is cut down, it will renew itself. Its roots will not cease. If its roots are old in the earth and its stump dies in the ground, at the scent of water it will bud and produce branches like a sapling. But people languish and die, right? He's saying the trees, even if you do terrible things to them, they can be resuscitated and brought back. But people languish and die. Humans expire. Where is a human? Right? Because he's like, oh, in the scope of time, a human could, whoop, it's there, it's gone.
Everything expires, including trees. Have you seen a 10,000-year-old tree?
Well, but I guess his point is, if God determines lifespans, and God said a fly should live a week and a person should live 120 years and a tree can live longer than that, why does a tree get that much and a person doesn't? People do a lot more than trees. They have reason and free will. There's a whole experiment God created the world to do with people, not with trees. God does love trees. We know God loves trees, but still. So that's my point.
Yeah.
Is it's like it's less about the trees than it's about us.
Yeah, well, that's the central point. Why did you set the system up to be, quote, unfair? Even though it probably isn't.
Is it unfair? That's the question. Like that's
the point.
That's what we're wrestling with here.
Yeah.
He is asking that question, but not necessarily to say, and you did wrong.
I was just asking.
There may be good wisdom in that number. There may be reason that we do not understand.
Absolutely.
Why a human can't live more than 120 years. And that's it. Perfect. Obviously, we know very few people make it to that number. Nobody yet has, to my knowledge. But, I mean, not in a couple thousand years at least. But usually, we've seen some people make it to like 110. Very, very rarely, but a couple of people. So we're getting there. We'll get to it. Pretty soon we're gonna start growing organs for people in tanks and stuff. And
Yeah.
just replace it. You're gonna have like when you take your car in at 40,000 miles to get a new radiator and whatnot, you'll be like, well, you're 60, time to do a whole workup. We gotta change your stomach, your intestines, your kidneys, your heart, your lungs, we're gonna switch them all out for new stuff.
And
You can
even
get
New
a
if-
parts.
gallbladder.
And even if we.
I'm doing okay. I think I'll go without, but fair enough. I can get my gallbladder replaced. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nobody's ever been able to totally remake a car from parts.
True.
It isn't practical.
Well, but we're hoping at some point to get to a place where we're essentially doing what is it? What is his name? The Greek guy, his boat.
Aristotle.
No, not that boat guy, not that Greek boat guy. The boat guy where it's the political ship of Theseus. The idea is that the ship of Theseus was replaced and repaired so many times that eventually none of its boards were the same
Right.
boards that Theseus actually sailed on that boat. So the question is it still the ship of Theseus? If no element of the boat was around at the time, right? That's the question. We're essentially going to try and human do that at some point.
And-
Because we're going to try and say, can we swap out parts to last for longer? Yeah.
And all robotically.
No, well, most of it probably won't be robotics.
Oh.
There will be a lot of robotics involved, but we're growing organs. These are biological organs.
But I mean, the surgeries and the replacement.
Oh yes, that's true. Yes, all the surgeries will be much easier, hopefully, as we continue to improve our.
Well, if I had many billions, I'd want to reverse the aging process too. They're spending a lot of money trying to do that. And
Yes, well, they will fail in that. They might not fail in some of these other things, but they'll fail in. I'm sorry, no amount of shining red light on yourself is going to make you live longer. It wasn't true about boards that shake you like this, and it's not true about red
well,
light.
you have to alter DNA and all kinds of stuff like that.
And,
I don't know what Peter Thiel is up to. It's not
and
my
with-
problem.
And with your analogy, show me the ship of Theseus. No,
Well, I've
all
heard
things go.
also,
Yeah. True.
Mountains go.
No, you're right, and
Absolutely.
that's the wisdom that the book is
And-
trying to give
and we
you.
now know worlds go.
I agree with you.
Everything, the world will be absorbed by the sun.
Exactly.
The red giant.
We know that already, and in fact, perhaps you could see it in that cosmic sense that God is trying to get us to a place where we can work together to get off this planet, so that one day, when that happens,
Well, we-
God's children aren't limited by the fact that we were put on this one earth. But again, we're 1,000
maybe
years
we
away
see
from that.
that part of our identity is with God, and that you then would continue.
Yes, there is that, and also, quite frankly, there is this understanding that everything fades. That's okay.
Right.
Our impermanence is not a punishment. And that's what this is trying to lead to, is that your impermanence isn't a punishment.
Oscar Wilde addressed this in the picture of Dorian Gray. And it's interesting, theologically it brings up ethical, to retain eternally useful. Would that be a curse? I feel, the more likely that would be a blessing, but it might not be such a blessing that we would think.
Eternity is a long time.
Yes.
Human beings can't understand eternity. We love to use words like eternity and eternal and stuff, but we can't actually comprehend it. It's just a word we use. It's a stand-in word that stands in for a concept that we're uncomfortable with. And so
Concept is death, I would think. And then
is
they say,
right, is no longer non-consciousness,
You
right?
would live to eternity. God help us. We don't even know what eternity is.
Honestly, a lot of it is not just death, it's FOMO. Fear of missing out. What is the world going to look like in 10,000 years?
It'd be fun to see.
Would be fun to see, but none of us will. But that's why all these people are doing this. Honestly, they just want to see what comes next. And they don't want to miss it. And they've lived in a world now where they don't have to miss anything. Especially those rich folks you're talking about. They could be on a jet and do dinner in one place, and they're almost, once teleporters come out, they're set. But I'm just saying, like but impermanence is okay. In fact, here we get, right, we're getting, right, humans expire. Where are they? Let's just get a little bit more here. I just want to get to the end of this chapter and the waters of the sea fail and the river dries up and is parched. Right? These are irreversible processes. So each of us lies down never to rise, and will awake only when the heavens are no more. Only then be aroused from sleep. Oh, that you would hide me in Sheol. Conceal me until your anger passes. Set me a fixed time to attend to me. Again, this is the comfort of death in the assumption of resurrection, essentially.
Mhm.
One idea of Olam Haba is that one day the righteous of all faiths, but the righteous will be resurrected from their graves and they'll live again, and earth will be not that they'll go to heaven, but that earth will be paradise and they will live here on earth in paradise forever. Anyway, that's what he's referencing here when he says that. Can someone who dies live again? Right, and this is a question, right? He's like, I don't know whether that's true, by the way. Would that you would hide me in Sheol and that I knew that were true? It would be more comforting if I knew for sure, oh, and then there's a fixed time. I know eventually Mashiach will come and I'll be resurrected. No, I won't be afraid. Right? Then you're not really dead, right? That's what he's like, are you really dead then? But here he's like, can someone who dies live again? All the time of my service I wait until, I don't know why it says my replacement. I wait until my passing. Time for my departure from the world comes. Until it comes, not my replacement, but and I guess his replacement in that sense would be this like resurrected figure, which he essentially says isn't him. Right? He's like, right? But can a man who dies live again? I'd essentially be someone else, he's positing. You would call and I would answer you. You would set your heart on your handiwork, right? Then you would not count my steps or keep watch over my sin. My transgression would be sealed up in a pouch. You would coat over my iniquity. Mountains collapse and crumble. Rocks are dislodged from their place. Water wears away stone. Torrents wash away earth. So you destroy a mortal's hope. It's interesting. You overpower him forever and he perishes. You alter his visage and dispatch him. You alter his visage. You make oldness happen. You make, skin and all that stuff. You make oldness happen and then send him away from the world. His children attain honor and he does not know it. They are humbled and he is not aware of it. Here meaning, right? We also see in the elderly sometimes a disconnection with the world. These people wouldn't have the words we have today for some of those conditions, but they would recognize them because it's existed. And so he's right. They're saying he might get old and he might not even recognize his children. He feels only the pain of his flesh, and his spirit mourns in him. Right? Because the spirit is still alive, and he feels this very acutely in this moment, because his body is super suffering, even though he's not old. His body can't move, he's so ill. But his spirit feels like he can fight, like he's still with it. And so this is addressing another condition that exists in the world. And when we join back together next time, we'll get Eliphaz the Temanite's response to this. It's not going to be any better than last time. This is all right. Well, thank you. And everyone online, I'm sorry I didn't share my screen, so you're going to have to follow along.